So hello and welcome back to another video. Now this video is going to be something slightly different to what I usually do. Usually you'll see me out in the rocks chasing bass, chasing fish, showing you what I do. As always, I like to keep it very real, very simple. I believe that is entirely what fishing is about. This video is purely just to talk about the rods I use and the rods I'm going to be using over the winter months. Now obviously you can see I'm in my house right now. It's January, the weather's miserable, it's cold, it's raining, it's windy. You get out when you can. I thought I'd do this video because basically I have a lot of people message me, whether it's through YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, asking about rods all the time. Now rods it's such a broad spectrum. The spectrum is like that. It depends what you want, what you're using it for, how it feels to you, and all this video is just me telling you why I use the rods I use. I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's right for everybody, it's just the reason why I use them. Now obviously once you get into angling, especially bass lure fishing, you can get entwined into the realm of buying lures, rods, reels. Someone says this is good, someone says that's good. It's a very hard thing to understand sometimes. Now going back 6-7 years ago when I first started getting into bass lure fishing, I was a complete newbie. I knew nothing about it. As time's gone on, the more I've done it, the more I've got more comfortable with what I use to fish with. There's a reason why I use what I fish with. It's the type of ground that I'm fishing. It's what feels comfortable to myself. It's what lures I'm using, the weight of them, the length of the rod I want, when I want a longer rod, when I want a shorter rod, etc, etc. So this video is just basically, I'm just going to run through 3 rods, and they're the 3 rods that I use most of, whether that's through summer or winter. Especially during winter now, I tend to up the heavy gear. And that's not just because of targeting bass, that'll be because sometimes I want to go target pollock or wrasse, fish deep water marks. Sometimes I'm fishing very shallow reefs where I want a longer rod, a longer reach. So that's the reason for this. So I just want to make clear that I am not affiliated with any brands whatsoever. I'm not sponsored by any brands. I'm not plugging any brands or anything like that. I have a certain brands which I like, which just suit me personally. For other people it may be different. Everybody has their everybody does have their certain brand which they get on with, whether it's Daiwa, Shimano, Penn, it might be a lower brand, it could be anything, right? And it's for completely different reasons. Me personally, what I look for in a fishing rod and reel is feel. I like the feel of how it's fishing. I like light gear, and when I say light gear, I don't mean light as in LRF style, I mean light to hold. I cast over and over again. I don't want heavy gear. It starts to hurt your shoulder, your back, everything when you're lugging it around on the rocks with your lure bag and everything like that. I completely understand why certain people plug certain brands. Maybe they're an ambassador, maybe they are sponsored, maybe anything. It could be any reason, right? I'm not plugging any brand here. I'm purely talking about my own personal experience. Now, I have a shed outside which is full of lure rods. They range from 7 foot as the shortest up to 12 foot. And these are all lure fishing rods. Some I use all the time, some I use every now and then. They all have a benefit. At certain times, they all have a benefit. They all will come into play in their own, in the right time, at the right venue, in the right place. Now, the first rods I'm going to talk about are the Samson fishing rods. And obviously a lot of people would have heard of Samson fishing, they would have seen Grant Woodgate's videos on YouTube. Ideally, these rods they're a heavy lure rod. Are they made for UK bass fishing? No, not exactly. Do they come into play sometimes? Yes, they totally do. Now a lot of lure anglers will use a longer rod, whether it's 10 foot, 11 foot, 12 foot. No one really tends to go over 12 foot when it comes to lure fishing. Obviously the Samson fishing rods are a heavier style rod, so I own 2 of them. I have the 30 to 100 gram lure rod, which is obviously a a heavy lure rod for UK fishing, and I also have the 15 to 60 gram. So sorry, 15 to 60 gram lure rod. Now, the 15 to 60 gram, honestly, in certain scenarios, it really is beneficial. The way it throws lures out. When we talk about lure fishing for bass in the UK, 9 times out of 10, you get a take close in. So do you need to cover an extreme amount of ground with a lure to catch a bass? Technically, no. However, there are the odd occasion when you can be fishing and you see fish breaking the water way further than you can cast. With a longer rod and a heavier lure, sometimes it can be very beneficial. Now, as I said, I'm not plugging these rods whatsoever. I'm just telling you my own personal experience. Have I caught a monster bass, 10 pound plus, on a Samson rod? No, I haven't. But would I worry if I hooked a 10 pound bass at distance on a Samson rod? Not in the slightest. I know that rod is going to handle it. It will bring that, the strength in them is unbelievable. I mean, they're made for basically tropical fish and big bass fishing. In heavy seas, big lures, heavy swells. Do we get that in the UK often? Of course we do. But do we fish in them? Not so often. So maybe it's a new thing that can open up a whole different ball game to your bass fishing. I've fished in 4.6 to 7 winds, head-on winds, and thrown out 50 gram lures. Now 50 grams in a 4.6 or 4.7, which is probably what, 40, 50 miles an hour, probably doesn't seem like that much. But when you really bang it out there, it will still travel twice as far as what it would if you were casting on a regular rod. Have I caught fish on them? Of course I have. So it is beneficial. I did a post I don't know, it's probably last winter or something like that, saying that it opened up a whole new realm for me with bass fishing in winter, because it really did. Spots which I wouldn't even consider fishing with my lighter gear in a head-on wind, I take the Samson rod, a heavier lure, and it doesn't have to be a Samson lure, it can be a soft plastic, a 45, 50 gram soft plastic, and you can cast that to the horizon and catch fish. Now, this is the Samson Longcast Expanse LS. This is the 15 to 60 gram version. And at the moment, on here, I've got a Penn Slammer 3500, loaded with 20 pound braid, and I use about 4.5 foot of 30 pound fluorocarbon leader. Now, as I said, this rod will catch pretty much anything. A lot of people are put off by a longer rod, but it can really be beneficial. As I've just mentioned, with reach, with everything like that, casting distance, obviously, it really is. It's just great to have in your tackle box. Now, with the reel, the Penn 3500, this is a very strong reel, saltwater resistant. It performs brilliantly. I know a lot of people don't like them, but I personally love the round handles. It's just got strength, it's got power, and you could fish anything below that. You could fish a 3,000, a 2,500, you could put a 5,000 on there if you were targeting massive fish tropically. 3,500 for me personally in Guernsey waters for bass works ideally. 20 pound braid, you don't really need much more than 20 pound breaking strain. And as I say, I only use a 30 pound leader on this rod because I'm throwing heavier lures. They sink faster. If I'm guiding them around rocks or anything like that, I want that extra give. So like I said, a lot of people are put off by a longer rod, and they may see someone like Grant's videos fishing in the Algarve and everything like that in heavy seas and think, why do you need that over here? Now, I've used the Samson rods over here in flat calm waters, and I've thrown out 45 to 50 gram lures, surface lures mostly, and still caught fish. In the clip here, you can probably see me casting out a lure. The sea is flat calm, and bang, all of a sudden a bass comes up and smashes the lure. Now, it just goes to show that fish aren't put off by this. I've caught tiny little schoolie bass on lures that big. They're not put off by the size of the lure. For me personally, I just think it's ridiculous that people think a 165 lure is too big for UK waters. And that's the reason why I use the Samson rod. It can handle those sort of lures. You can cover a lot of distance. It's got power in it. If you've got a good reel on there, it can handle any fish. If you're fishing a soft plastic and a big pollock takes it, you know you're going to land that fish. You can play it. You're going to land it easily. You can be high up on rocks, low down, over reef, shallow water. It really, really doesn't matter. The extra reach really does help sometimes. Now, the second rod I'm going to talk about is a rod I've been using for probably 2 years now. I've had a lot of use out of it. And in my personal opinion, for an entry-level rod, it's excellent. Absolutely excellent. Now this here is the 9-foot version of the Shimano Enos 7 to 35 gram lure rod. On here I have a Shimano Vanford 4000 XG, again loaded with 20-pound braid, and on this I have a 20-pound fluorocarbon leader. Now this rod is extremely lightweight. You can take this out for 4, 5, 6 hours, cast away. It is extremely, extremely lightweight. Now, as I said earlier in the video, for me personally, and it's not for everybody, but just for me personally, that's what I want in a lure rod. I want it to feel light. I want strength. I want fast action. All of these rods that I use are fast action. The third one I'll talk about is a super fast action, which basically is just a stiff tip. Now, the majority of lures I use are either surface lures or hard plastics. If I fish a soft plastic, it's usually above 20 grams. Now, I know certain rods, especially the high-end, expensive things, Tenrus, everything like that, you want to flick out a 7 gram soft plastic, and you want to feel every single thing. Light braid, thin diameter, everything like that. You want to feel every single thing. Me personally, that's not my style of fishing. That is not me whatsoever. I like hard lures, soft plastics, which are 15, 20 gram above, and surface lures. So this rod here retails at £100. So an entry-level bass rod, right? There's nothing special about this. Shimano is an absolutely fantastic braid, but they obviously make rods that go up to 400, 500, 600 pound. This is an entry-level rod. The reel on it, yes, okay, it's probably not entry-level, but the Shimano Vanford 4000 in any of the styles is a fantastic reel. The finesse on it, the way you can work lures, the smoothness, I really, really can't fault it whatsoever. It's probably the nicest reel I've ever used. Now, in a lot of my videos, you'll see me use this rod and this reel. Sometimes I switch up reels between different rods depending on what I'm doing, or sometimes you might snap off and you might have not much braid on one of your reels, so you switch over to another one. This rod has done me well for the last 2 years. I target bass, wrasse, mackerel, everything like that on it. So in a lot of my videos, you would have seen me using either this rod or this reel. And as I said, I like to switch up things every now and then. It depends what you're fishing for, where you're fishing, the type of scenario, what type of rod you're using. The Vanford 4000 XG for me is a very lightweight finesse reel. Now, I've done freshwater fishing, which admittedly was my very first time. Used it on a travel rod, caught largemouth bass. I've used it over in Guernsey for a lot of my bass fishing, obviously. Used it for mackerel, throwing out metals, soft plastic lures late at night, in the darkness. It really just covers everything. And as I said, for me personally, and I'm not saying this is gospel truth, but for me personally, I like a lightweight rod. The Vanford for me fits everything, especially on a Shimano rod. Shimano make very lightweight carbon rods, which are just beautiful to hold. Another thing for me personally, which I get a lot of people ask me sort of things, I like a long handle on a rod. I don't care whether your rod costs £300 and it's the best thing in the world, or £600 is the best thing in the world. If it's got a short handle, I'm not interested. I am not interested. Now, the thing with entry-level rods as well, right? The way that rods are made these days, the technology behind them is fascinating. They can handle so much. if you look after it, you make sure that you check the guides, you check everything like that, that rod will last you a very long time. Do rods snap every now and then? Of course they do. Does human error come involved sometimes? Of course it does. Do you trap it in the car door? Do you cast against something and snap the tip off? Yes, it happens. But generally, you do not need to go out and spend £200, £300, £400, £500 on a rod if you want to go catch some bass. Very easy entry-level rods will probably cost about £50 or £60, and some of them are really, really great. Do you have as much feel as one of the more expensive rods? No, you don't. But if you put the right reel on it, the right braid, you will be able to fish for everything and anything wherever you go. Now, I've always been a big advocate of this because some fishing rods are unbelievable. They really are unbelievable. However, no fishing rod is indestructible. So if you snap a £500 rod, you have to replace that £500 rod. If you snap a £50 rod, it's £50. That's always been my ethos of everything. So when people ask me, Cal, what rod do you recommend? It's such a broad spectrum of everything to cover, because where do you live? What type of ground are you fishing? What are you after? You can't ask somebody, I'm not selling these rods. Don't go and buy the rods I'm suggesting here. I use these because I use these. Somebody else will use their rods because they like the way they feel. They use them for what they like. It's a broad spectrum of everything. So once again, I just want to answer everybody who's asked me that question. In a way, me personally, I can't answer you. I can't. And I do say this in replies to messages. If you want to message someone else and they can give you an answer or sell you something else, go ahead. I'm not going to answer you. Go to a tackle shop, pick up a rod, see how it feels in your hand. As I said before, I like stiff rods. If I gave that to a friend of mine who fishes soft plastics all the time, he would hate it. He would absolutely hate it and probably say, I can't feel anything through it. It's just not his style. His style is not mine, mine's not his. And that's as simple as it is. Now then, the next rod we're going to get onto is a new addition to my collection. This is the Shimano Technium, which is rated 21 to 56. Yes, 21 to 56 grams. Now, this is the 8'4" version. I believe they make these up to 9'2" or something like that. Possibly even bigger, I could be wrong on that. Now, this I only bought recently. I took it out today and had a couple of sharks with it. The reason why I bought this, and I only bought this 2 days ago, was because I wanted a heavier, shorter lure rod for winter. Heavier metals, heavier soft plastics, deeper water. I want to target wrasse, pollock, bass as well. On here, I've put on my Shimano Twin Power 5000. And this reel, apart from the Vanford, is definitely my second favourite reel, without a shadow of a doubt. Now, a lot of people will think a 5,000 size reel on a lure rod, especially a light lure rod, light short lure rod, is too much. If I compare this reel, 5,000 size, to the 3,500 Pen Slammer, it's actually smaller in size. It's more lightweight, and in my personal opinion, it's a better reel, by far. Now, as I was saying before about entry-level rods, entry-level everything, the reels are not entry-level, okay? This is a £400 reel. It's not cheap. Is it worth the £400? It's worth every single penny, in my opinion. However, you don't necessarily need that. An entry-level reel will probably cost you £50, £60, £70. They'll last you a few years if you look after them. They'll last you even longer if you really, really look after them. And they're great reels. But again, going back to my style of fishing, personally, I like lightweight. So the cheaper reel tends to be heavier. Pen reels are strong as hell and they will put up with anything, but they're heavy. And for me, I'm not into that. Now, obviously you got new reels from Penn, like the Authority and everything like that, which I've heard from local anglers over here. They absolutely love them. They use the spin fishers, the slammers and everything like that. it's just not my game. So the reason why I like Shimano reels is because they're lightweight, they're heavy duty, they're lightweight, they're salt water resistant, they've got brilliant line lay, brilliant retrieve style, very fast retrieve, which I like because I use surface lures. So when you cast a surface lure, you'll always have a bit of slack line. So the faster retrieve rate, the better the line is going back onto the reel, if that makes sense. Now again, with the twin power, we got the round handle. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea. For me personally, I love it. Shimano rods, longer handle, which again, I personally love. I believe you can get a better cast, more controlled. And that's the reason I bought this rod, again, for general lure fishing for bass and for heavier lure fishing over winter, throwing out heavier metals for pollock, wrasse, things like that. And yeah, I'm really excited about using this. So I could go on and on and on about different styles of fishing rods. Now, what it comes down to basically is what feels comfortable to you. A lot of people ask sometimes, what rod should I use? What length should I get? What casting rating should I get? My own opinion and my own advice to them sometimes is go to your local tackle shop. If you can buy local, please do it. Support your local tackle shop. Go to your local tackle shop and feel the rod. Feel what you're going to be casting with. I've always been a big advocate of actually feeling what you're going to fish with. For me, that's so important. I mean, people can recommend this, that, and the other. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of rods on the market that are all brilliant. Some of them are absolutely fantastic, but until you hold it yourself, you might not get along with it. The handle might be too short, it might be too stiff, it might be too soft, it might be not for the lures you want to use, it might not fit anything you want to do. So the best thing you can do, go to your local tackle shop, pick up a rod, see what feels good for you, forget price. Forget price. If you buy a £400 rod, it doesn't mean you're a better angler than the person who's using a £100 rod. So like I said, I hope this video has been a little bit helpful. Thank you very much for watching my channel. Go check out the other videos on there if you're into bass fishing. If you're local and you're from Guernsey, go check out gbass.com. And if you want to sign up for a membership and join a brilliant club for a brilliant cause, then feel free to do that. So once again, thank you very much. I'll see you on the next one.